Welcome to Follow South Jersey's Follow Salem podcast about the people, places, and all things good in and around Salem, New Jersey. Today we are talking with Dr. Carol Kelley, Superintendent of the Salem City School District. Listen to what Dr. Kelley has to say about school academic performance, absenteeism, school climate, as well as other initiatives coming up in the new school year. Hi, welcome to Follow Salem podcast. I'm Dean Johnson, Editor-in-Chief of Follow South Jersey, and today we have with us Dr. Carol Kelley. Dr. Kelley is the Superintendent of the Salem City School System. Hi, welcome, Dr. Kelley. I appreciate you coming out.
Thank you so much.
Before we get started talking about the schools and the city, let's learn a little bit more about you, because you're new to us. You came in January, correct?
January of this year,
25.
correct. Yes.
So where are you from originally?
So I grew up in Philadelphia.
Okay, what part?
I grew up in North Philly.
Okay.
My mom would say I grew up near the old Connie Mack Stadium.
Okay.
So I never knew the Connie Mack Stadium, but
she would
Connie
Mack was.
should I know who Connie, but it was something baseball.
Yeah, it's a baseball player. I don't know.
So grew up in North Philadelphia, and but I've been in New Jersey longer than I've been in Philadelphia at this point.
Okay.
So I do consider myself somewhat of a Jersey girl.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
I do.
All right. So when did you come to Jersey?
Gosh, I came to Jersey after, and I have a very convoluted way of getting into education, but I came to Jersey by way of my job with Johnson & Johnson.
Okay.
So after I finished my master's in business, J&J recruited me, and that's how I landed in New Jersey.
Okay.
And eventually got into teaching after that position.
So let's talk about this convoluted way. So you did your undergrad at Penn as a systems science engineer.
Yes, that is correct.
First of all, tell us what that is.
Systems science engineering is, and you know what, honestly, it is anyone who manages systems. But
computer systems, when you say systems, or
computer systems, school systems.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, I did not go to college to be a superintendent.
Right.
But it has there's a lot of mathematics in systems engineering. But it's a mismatch between computer science, mathematics, logic thinking, and people can do a variety of things. Okay. So my undergrad was in systems engineering, and I minored in computer science.
Okay. And then you went to the University of Virginia.
I did.
For business.
I did. So I worked, after I graduated from Penn, I worked in Philadelphia then it was Bell Atlantic, the phone systems. Yeah. And I did that for 2 years. I always knew I was going back to graduate school for something. So I went to get my MBA thinking that I would come back to the Bell system. Right. So I did that for 2 years. But when I graduated, I was recruited by Johnson & Johnson, brand management. So that's how I landed in New Jersey.
Okay, so you're now working for Johnson & Johnson. And all of a sudden, you're thinking, education.
Nope, not at all. Working for Johnson & Johnson, and I think still to this day, they really value their employees being involved in their community. So I did a lot with my church. I was a tutor. I volunteered to be on different boards. And I just got to the point where I was enjoying the things outside of work more than my day job. Okay. And I was still in my mid 20s, began to explore. I had friends that had connections with Rutgers University, so I met with some career counselors, did the Myers-Briggs and all of that, and I wanted to become a counselor. And learned about in New Jersey the alternate route process, because at that time to become a counselor you needed to have 3 years as a classroom teacher. Okay. And when I learned about the alternate route process in teaching, I just really went for it. And I really credit my career in education to my then pastor, Dr. DeForest. People call him Buster Soares. Okay. And he really spoke me up to, the town, the school district where the church was located in Somerset, New Jersey. So they unfortunately had a really bad fight in the school. And there were 16 young men in the middle school that were expelled from the school. And Pastor Soares volunteered at the church to help those young men and also their families.
Right.
But he had some conditions, and one of the conditions was that they could recommend the staff for the it was really home study, but he had the kids come to the church.
Right.
So my very first teaching position was in the basement of my church with 16 boys. I offered the science and mathematics, and he had another person do the ELA social studies, and I think the district provided like the teacher that did the PE.
Right. And how did that work?
That worked out really well. They call them the Sweet 16. I learned a lot. That first, it was the spring semester of, I'm not going to date myself, but a long time ago. And we provided the schooling for half day, but in the afternoon, the boys had mentoring. The weekends, the church provided various trips. I would love to say that all 16 boys, got on the right, road.
Right.
The majority of them did, though.
That's great.
The majority of them did.
Yeah,
So
wonderful.
that was my first introduction to teaching, and I think it was that exposure that gave the building principal of that school the confidence to hire me as a full-time alternate route teaching that subsequent fall.
Got you. And what were you teaching once you got your...
That was sixth grade, my first year, and then...
sixth grade math, science?
Sixth grade, everything.
Oh,
Yep,
okay.
Sixth grade teacher.
Okay.
And then after that first year, they transferred me to fifth grade. Because my first year I was there for as a maternity leave replacement.
Right.
But I got my classroom as a fifth grade teacher, and I taught fifth grade for several years. All in Franklin Township in Somerset, New Jersey. I noticed that the middle school, their scores in mathematics were not the best. I transferred to be a math support teacher, again, like with the onus to help the students, to help the district. So I did that for a couple of years, and then some would say I went to the dark side.
That's administration.
Administration.
How did I know that?
And that was, and I'll never forget this, my first admin position, again, same district, was fall of 2001.
Okay.
And for the young people that are listening, I think a lot of people recognize fall of 2001 as 911. So that was my first year as an assistant principal. Thank God I was under, the building principal was Johanna Roberto. And I just really had a great career there. So from assistant principal, that was still at the middle school, I was transferred to the elementary school the subsequent year, and then I went for and got the K-12 math supervisor position. And at the same time, I wanted to go back to school to get an official degree in education. So that's when I got my doctorate from University of Penn.
Went back to Penn and got your doctorate in education.
Yep.
But why go into educational leadership? Why not just stay in the classroom?
That's a really great question. I think for me, leadership at the time really called me to it. And I can say back then, there were not as many pathways for teacher leaders as there are today. And I do wonder if I would have stayed in the classroom if that pathway was provided. I probably still would have done educational leadership. It's, in my opinion, the same role, being a teacher. It's just that your classroom gets to be bigger. But I think everything that I did as a classroom teacher, I did as a supervisor of instruction, I did as a assistant principal, I did as a principal, as a director, and now a superintendent.
Right. So that educational footprint, if you will, is larger.
It's larger. You get to impact more individuals. I really think that it's the same role per se. It's just that your platform is a little larger.
Now, you have an extensive background in education, VP of Educational Services at Edison Learning in Philly, Director of Curriculum and Instruction at Hunterdon, New Jersey, Superintendent in Branchburg, New Jersey, Oak Park in Illinois, right outside of Chicago, and of course, your previous position in the Princeton schools. What did you take away from those experiences and bringing here to Salem?
I think in each of the experiences has always been about helping students. I feel that public education is an opportunity that can change the trajectory of a child's life. I think about myself, the youngest daughter of my mom and dad, who neither one graduated from high school, to be quite honest. My mom got her GED when I was in 6th grade.
Wow.
But you take a kid from North Philadelphia with parents who hadn't completed high school, but as I think all parents do, had strong desires to make sure that their daughter was able to get a great education. And they advocated for that.
And I think being in 6th grade, watching your mom going after her GED had to be somewhat inspirational too.
It was very inspirational. My mom showed the importance of education in many ways. That was probably one of them. But I think that, a really great education can be a vehicle to change a child's life. But also I think about now my sons who, are the product of a mom who has her college degree, all because I had that opportunity, provided to me.
Right.
So for me, it was, I think, years ago, and I can't remember the author's name, but he wrote a book that I read when I worked for Johnson & Johnson. It was like a little book club, and it was called The Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. Have you read that?
No. I did read why all the black boys sit together in the cafeteria.
In the cafeteria, all the black kids,
Yeah, black kids, yeah.
Beverly Tatum, I think, wrote that one. This one, I think it was Kamwanjo, I can't pronounce his name, also from Chicago, but he talked about how all kids come to school like really excited about learning, and that there's something magical, and I don't think this is just for black boys, by the way. There's something that happens like 3rd or 4th grade where that excitement, that spark for learning, that curiosity goes away. And really, like, my interest in going into teaching or counseling, way back, was to try to keep that spark alive. And I think like that has carried me through all of my positions, was how can I keep that spark alive, and where might my skill set, my gifts, for lack of a better term, be used to fully help a community or a school system.
Right. So for the Salem school system, what are maybe the top 3 priorities that you see under the district under your leadership?
So top 3 priorities would definitely be student achievement levels. The second one would be climate and culture for all learners, not just the student learners, but the adult learners that work. So really trying to set the conditions for learning. And the third one would be, at least for our students, addressing our chronic absenteeism.
Okay, so let's take these one at a time. So achievement. So according to the recent school report card that came out, I'm going to say in April, and this refers to the 2023-24 school year data, 14% of students met or exceeded expectations on statewide assessments in language arts, English language arts, and less than 10% met or exceeded expectations in mathematics.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, what's your reaction to these numbers? And then secondly, what strategies is the district putting in place to affect change?
Mm-hmm. A couple of things. One, the reaction would be that we have to help all students meet or exceed standards.
Mm-hmm.
From the standpoint of we want students to be able to read at grade level, and we also want students to be able to critically think, solve problems, have reasoning skills. I will say that, and this is not an excuse, I will say that sometimes looking at just like one set of numbers doesn't really capture all that students can do.
Right.
But at the same time, we know that there are certain numbers that if I drove here today, right? So if there wasn't a certain score that I got on my driver's, I would not have gotten my driver's license. So we do know that. The thing, and I say this all the time, not to put the district down, but when I started in January, one thing that I learned is that if you were to rank all school districts in New Jersey, and there are like over 630,
Right.
Salem City currently, and again, this does not define who we are, but currently, according to numbers, are in the bottom 5% of all schools based on those achievement numbers.
Right.
I know that we can do better. So what are we doing towards that? Again, it's about creating the conditions for our staff, making sure that they have the materials and the tools and the time and the space to do what they do best. And that is providing, relevant and engaging instruction to students. We're bringing some things to the district next year in terms of partnerships, one of which is, it's not an AI tool, but it's an adaptive tool that will be able to measure where students are and then provide to students, based on where they are, targeted intervention support that will help to accelerate their learning. We hope to continue with intensive tutoring, like one-on-one tutoring, like an actual live person coming into the school. So we hope to continue with that.
Okay.
And we also just hope to make sure that we call it Tier 1, and it basically means universally in all of our classrooms, we're hoping to focus on 2 teaching practices. It seems like hokey pokey, but when I say this, there's a lot of research behind providing students with clear learning targets that are aligned to their grade level standards, and also providing them with targeted feedback on where they are in relationship to learning those goals. So those are in all of our schools and all of our classrooms, like what we're going to be focused on next year. And then what the leaders have promised to do is that we're promising that every week we're going to get into at least 10 classrooms and to provide our teachers with targeted feedback on how well those practices are going in the classrooms. So that is really primarily what we're trying to do, like helping students to see, and their parents, where they are in relationship to grade level standards, and providing targeted intervention support to help accelerate learning.
Is there training for teachers for this?
There will be training for teachers. We're going to be using a tool called iReady that will be providing professional learning to teachers. And then each of our schools have designed an action plan that's based on what are the professional practices that we want to have in place, what are the educational strategies that we want to have in place, and therefore what are the professional development plans and themes that we want to provide to staff so that they're able to accomplish those
And
goals.
is this something that's going to start day one in September?
It's going to start day one in September. In fact, this evening we have a board retreat where we're going to outline for the board these draft action plans,
Okay.
so that we can get their buy-in and support, and present this then to the staff when they come back in September, so that we can move forward on helping students.
And how do you measure success with this? Besides obviously the state tests
Yes.
would be one. Is there other
Yeah.
indicators?
Yes, so the indicators will, each of the schools have specific targets and indicators for their 4 areas. For academic achievement, there are areas in English language arts and also mathematics. There are areas in chronic absenteeism, and then from a culture climate area, there are areas in terms of social emotional learning.
Okay.
So they will measure in terms of those targets as well as their specific milestones that the schools are setting. That's just really like the actions that they're planning to take.
Right.
They'll be able to share out those actions, the progress.
So you also mentioned the climate and culture. Why? What do you see as the need? Why did that come up? And well, explain what it is first.
Yeah. So social emotional learning, it's somewhat like DEI. It's gotten in some circles not so great.
Diversity.
Equity and inclusion, not so great. I don't know where SEL has suddenly, been a taboo term. Again, thankfully in New Jersey it is not.
Right.
We know that for students to be able to achieve academically, there are certain things that all human beings need to have. They need to feel safe.
Right.
They need to feel a sense of belonging. So social emotional learning is our way of making sure that we are addressing that portion of our students.
Right.
So we have been awarded a grant through the state of New Jersey. It's called the DREAMS grant. There is an acronym. I am not able to say, but it's all about developing the resiliency and also the emotional, the emotional regulation of students.
Okay.
And it really helps the adult to create the climate and the condition in classrooms where students feel safe. And safety, physical safety, yes, we want all of our students to feel physically safe, but there's also an emotional safety, a psychological safety that learners have to feel in order to take risk in their learning.
Okay.
So this grant is going to provide professional learning experiences to all staff, including myself, the administrators, and teachers, paraprofessionals, where we're creating that psychological safety in our classrooms, and also how we can help to do various strategies so that students are able to reset and they're able to better regulate their emotions.
Right. And what are indicators of success for that type of program?
So things that we're going to be looking at, and it goes hand in hand with the chronic absenteeism, would be attendance to school, but we're also going to be looking at the number of and the types of, having a senior break here, discipline infractions, teachers writing referrals, discipline referrals. So we'll be looking at that as well.
Is that grant something that's happening prior to the 25-26 school year, or is it going to happen concurrently?
It's happening for next school year. So we were awarded the grant late this spring, and over the summer and the start of the next year, we will be creating, they're called champion teams. So we'll have a district level champion team that will be comprised of the champion leaders from each of the 3 schools.
Okay.
And each school will have a lead person that will become certified trained in this process that's called nurtured heart approach, and they will be bringing that training to their school.
Okay, so you're training the trainers and then bring it back and turnkey it for the teachers.
Yeah.
And talking about absenteeism, so according to the school report card, the recent, the percentage of students chronically absent in Salem is 32.9%, with a state average of only 14.9. What are some causes, do you think, of this? And I know you did mention part of the solution in the climate culture, but are there other programs in place or initiatives in place?
Yes. So some of the causes, I think, and I will talk about some of the initiatives that we're going to try next year. I do believe it starts with education and individuals understanding that to be chronically absent is, in a month, is to miss more than 2 days of school. And I think that individuals may feel that allowing a child to stay home, 2 to 3 days a month is not really a big deal, but it's a very big deal. If students are chronically absent between, let's say kindergarten to 6th grade, they miss years of schooling just by not coming to school. So I think a part of it is just educating families. So one of the interventions that are in place, and we did this already in terms of sending postcards and things of that nature, we're trying to introduce a tool where we can actually allow all of the staff to do two-way communication with families. So Johnny, I'm taking attendance during the day. I noticed Johnny's not here. I could send a quick message to a parent. Oh, I'm so sorry that Johnny's missing. If you could let me know what we could do. Oh, Johnny's uniform wasn't ready. Oh, that's okay. You could still send him to school.
Right.
So that two-way communication, we feel, is going to really help parents recognize, or guardians recognize, that we see that a student's missing, that we miss them, and that we hope that he will be back soon.
Okay.
The other thing, and this came from a couple of our principals, we used to provide, prior to COVID, a hot breakfast. And with COVID, that went away. We just never returned it. So we are trying to bring back the hot breakfast, thinking that that might be one of the barriers that parents don't have to worry about. If they could just get their child to school, we can provide that hot breakfast to them, and that they could just, after breakfast time, go directly to their school. So we're going to be working with our food service provider is Metz. So we did meet with them late last spring to see if we can get that rolling. We think that we can do that. Other things that we're attempting to do is, again, every school has an action plan specifically to address chronic absenteeism. We set up, when I arrived in the spring, a spreadsheet that helps our schools. They all have teams where they can really monitor those students that are heavily chronic absent. Some people would call it truant. I don't like to use that term. So that we can provide them with other intervention supports, whether that's counseling, whether that's an attendance officer going out to the home, but really trying to dig into what's the reason for the absenteeism, and how can we connect that family with services perhaps that are offered outside of school. And then finally, this is not new to the district, but we have expanded the service that's provided by a provider called ESS. And ESS, they provide us with clinicians that are in the schools. We've expanded their service with us so that they can help us as well with some of the families and the students that we find aren't coming to school as they should.
Okay. Earlier you mentioned school safety, and you're talking about just physical safety as well as I guess psychological safety. What is the school doing with, let's talk, basically physical safety of students in the schools?
Well, I think a part of it is the relationships that we build with students and also with families. So I would say that that's a huge start. And again, it's not anything that's new. It was in place. So I really have to give a lot of credit to our 3 building principals and also their leadership teams, which is inclusive of the assistant principals and the counselors. So I think just those relationships that they have with students, I have seen, in comparison to other districts, our schools are safe places for students to come to. And I've seen that there's like a certain level of respect. It's obviously schools are not churches, but there's a certain level of respect for the schools, where there are things that just don't happen inside of the school.
Well, yeah, I mean, looking at the school report card, I want to say that maybe over the 23-24 school year, there were only like 14 incidents that may have been either like a fight or, something, that sort. 0 incidents of police involvement.
Yep.
So, the numbers are pretty good in that way.
And really, I have to credit that with, the district is blessed with long, I would say the average tenure for our teachers is about 12 years.
Yeah, it's about 11 point something,
And the
12
same.
to 12 to 4, I think, ratio.
Yeah. And the same thing for our building principals. Now, we do have assistant principals that are newer, but again, I think that's a really safe and strong strategy for a district to have in terms of building your bench in case there's a need for a succession plan. But I really have to credit our students and the respect that they have for our schools. Some things that we have in place, though, in terms of safety, our business administrator, Mr. Scheckman, is in charge of the physical safety of our plant. So he will be in charge of bringing together the district safety team this summer in collaboration or partnership, rather, with external to school. You have our police chief, and there are other people that will sit on that committee. We, have strong relationships with the police department here. They provide officers who will do the safety drills that we have during the school year, just to make sure that things are in place. The Department of Education has an individual who has been invited to come each summer. He'll be coming this summer, just to make sure that the district safety plan is in place so that we are prepared.
Right. How do you communicate all this with parents?
So I was not here in terms of like how the former safety plan was communicated, but we are planning to use this upcoming school year a variety of tools. One is a newsletter that will be sent out to parents. I have set up an advisory committee of it's a cross role of stakeholders, and it's an advisory committee around communications to make sure that the ways that I'm communicating is not just heard by parents, but also community members as well.
Who makes up this committee? The parents, teachers, students?
A variety. So I have a student, I have teachers, I have administrators, I have non-district employees, so I have nonprofit leaders. I have, for example, the police chief sits on it, alumni. So I try to make sure, there are about 20 individuals in total. I try to make sure that it's a cross role of the community.
And they make recommendations to you or to the board?
They'll be making recommendations to me as my advisory. So we've met so far in the spring, and we have another date coming up in the fall. So I'll probably meet with them like 3 to 4 times a school year. But in terms of communication, we'll be using primarily newsletter, that two-way tool that I talked about. And I do want to continue to use social media, and I Probably not next year. I wanted to, but probably the year after we'll be migrating to a new website.
Okay. All right. Student voices. You mentioned that you have a student on the committee.
Yep.
What other opportunities do students have to be involved in, I guess, just the running of the school district?
Yeah. Student voice is really important to me. I think that everything that we do, it's important to do empathy interviews with students so that we can use that data to inform our practices. So whether it's academically, how are students doing academically, and then using that to inform, like, what do we need to do in terms of curriculum, what do we need to do in terms of lessons.
Right.
The same thing is true in terms of culture and climate. So I might not be, but I would say in all of the action plans, you will see there is a student voice component where principals are planning to talk to students to get feedback from them regarding how things are going or the why.
Right.
Why are things happening?
Right. And how about for families? Same thing?
For families,
Or for the community at large?
Yeah, for families, I would say it depends on like what it is. I do not currently have an advisory of parents. The advisories that I have right now are alum. Some of them are parents. So I meet with alum from the district probably about 3 times a year. We'll do the same thing with my communications. And I think like families, at least for me, probably not as often. But I do know that the schools, and I'm going to talk about one in particular, do surveys around certain topics to learn from families.
And what school is that, and what are some examples of that?
So one example would be the surveys that were provided to the Fenwick families around chronic absenteeism. Another example is, I believe, I'm not 100% sure, with the middle school, the surveys that have been done around some of the curricular changes.
Okay. And do you get a good return on these?
I don't know because they don't come to me directly. So
Right.
I've not done surveys with families,
Okay.
but I don't know what the return is. I do know that based on the return, that the principals have used that to inform their practices. Yeah.
How's the district looking like with its infrastructure?
Tell me more.
Buildings, how are buildings? What are
So-
conditions, physical conditions?
Yeah.
Of
So
those? Are you looking
the-
to build, or are you looking to expand, et cetera? Or
I
is everything
definitely
good?
wish. So Salem is a SDA district.
Okay, explain that.
So that is the School Development Authority.
That former Abbott
A
district?
former Abbott. So we do not have the discretion to say, like, if we're going to build or not build. That's like, that comes to us by the state.
Right.
So, but in terms of the infrastructure, I will say that the survey that I did with parents, with staff, the 2 areas, at least based on my entry plan, that I did present to the board, and it's on the district's website, that were the lowest scoring area, were facilities,
Okay.
was one of them. So what I can say is what's in our wheelhouse of what we have like control over.
Right.
Some of the things that we've done at the middle school, we're doing painting right now of all the classrooms. We have a proposal out regarding repair of our roofs because we had leaks in the building.
Right.
And I hear a mentor who says, Carol, hope's not a strategy. But my hope is at the upcoming board meeting that the board will approve that roofing work. So all I can do is really like what's in my purview
Right.
of, looking at the infrastructure. So I would say it depends on how you want me to answer the question. There's work to be done on the
Right.
infrastructure, in my opinion. I don't think that the data that came back from the surveys that I did when I first started is incorrect. I do think of all the areas to address. Like, I see why people put facilities as one of the top issues or concerns.
Right. How about teachers? I hear about teacher shortages throughout New Jersey. How does staffing look like in Salem?
So we definitely need help and support with filling positions. So we started full throttle with filling our positions this past spring. And we've been very successful, but we still have a lot of openings.
Okay.
And I probably could say them off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But, what happens over the summer is we do have people that may accept positions that are closer to home and things of that nature.
Right.
Again, going back to one of the top benefits or having a senior break again, but one of the key benefits to the district has been our staff. So we do have staff that are here for a while, but at John Fenwick, we are still looking for 2 reading specialists. I think the counselor position that we have will be filled as of this July. We also have a special ed pre-K teacher that we're looking for. And I believe we're still looking for a pre-K teacher and a first grade teacher.
Right.
Middle school, a lot. 3 math teachers.
Wow.
Science teacher. PE teacher, we just got a retirement. And the high school is probably situated the best right now. They had a lot of openings, but he was able to fill them.
Right.
I think right now he has an opening for PE. However, I believe that's filled. That should be board approved in July, next week. So we are always looking for substitutes, and we have actually partnered with the service to do the hiring of our substitutes, so that we can have, during the school year, if teachers have, to take off because a child is sick or they're sick,
right.
Which can impact them if we don't have enough substitutes and they have to cover classes. So we wanted to use the service to try to help improve that. But we're always looking for substitutes, and they should be advertising right now as well. And we're still, I believe, always looking for evening custodians. So I think for us, we haven't gotten to the point yet, but we might. We haven't gotten to the point yet where we've had to do proximity teaching, meaning that the teacher is teaching by way of the computer with an adult, being in the classroom.
Right. So you can do 2 or 3 classrooms simultaneously.
Honestly, no, so that you have a teacher that can cover that physics class or that class where we haven't been able to fill that spot.
So somebody from outside the district, for
Someone
example.
from outside the district.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we haven't had to. I take that back. The district does use that service, I believe, for world language at the elementary schools.
Right.
But we haven't had to do that service across the board. But the teaching shortage is it's a real thing.
Very real.
It's a very real thing.
Let's talk a little bit about technology. How has the district integrated technology into classrooms?
So that is one part of my entry plan that I'm still working on. And the board did approve a virtual chief technology officer who's helping me with that report. So he is going to be with us for the next 3 months. So I should have a better indication of where we are in terms of technology by September when we come back to school.
Right.
I can give you, what I think I see.
Yeah.
I don't know so I will just say with the caveat of, I don't know if what I see is what is.
Right.
What I see devices in schools. I see devices in classrooms in terms of
devices. Are we talking about Chromebooks?
Computing devices.
Okay.
It might be iPads, it might be Chromebooks,
Right.
so I'm just going to call them computing devices.
You got it. Okay.
I do see those in school. I see them, devices in classrooms in terms of the Promethean boards.
Could you talk about that real quick? Explain what a Prometheus board is.
So, what they are, what they should be.
What they do, their capacity.
So they have the capacity of being a smart board where you could use it to do a variety of things. Screen what's on your computer,
Can you manipulate?
There's a variety of things
Right.
that can be done
and
with
they're
it.
in all classrooms, or just some of the classrooms?
I can't say if they're in all of the classrooms because I've not physically been in all of the classrooms.
Right.
They are in the majority of the classrooms that I've been in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Your plan for technology.
My plan for technology is, I will just say this, we had a director of curriculum instruction. I changed the job description and the role to be teaching, learning, and innovation. So the plan for technology is to integrate technology that does more than what we would use paper and pencil. And paper and pencil is technology as well.
Of course, yeah.
But definitely want to see like the integration of technology so that like the curriculum is meaningful and engaging to students, but also that we're taking advantage of different technologies such as AI tools,
Right.
such as when students are in middle school or high school, perhaps they're leaving high school with certain certifications and certain technologies.
Right.
So I think that that's really important. I, feel that it starts with us as the adults. So one of my visions is to try to bring professional learning experiences to the adults that help us use and integrate technology more. We are planning to launch an online professional development tool called EdWeb, which allows any staff member in the district to access a variety of a variety of courses and webinars
Okay.
that can help them, learn more about AI or learn more about how to integrate, various tools and technology into their classrooms.
Right.
So I think, for me, first, I just want to get a handle of what is. In terms of the hardware or the back of the house infrastructure, I do believe, and this may be Salem, not just the district, that the Wi-Fi, the internet connection is something that needs to be addressed.
Okay.
Unfortunately, with some of the federal budget cuts, there was included originally funding for rural communities like Salem County that were going to bring more infrastructure support to our area. I believe that was taken out several months ago.
Okay.
But I do think that that's something for the district that we're going to have to figure out a way to address that.
Right.
To make the adults feel comfortable with being able to trust the technology. Because if you can't trust day to day
How
that
can you
you're
depend on it?
that you can
You
depend
have a
on
lesson,
it.
you're about to walk in, and
Yeah.
suddenly there's no internet.
Yes.
What do you
yeah.
do?
Yep.
What does the
mhm.
teacher do?
Yeah.
What do the kids do? Do you have partnerships with higher ed?
So we have partnership with Salem County Community College. So I think Dr. Gorman and his team have been really helpful and supportive. As you know, the high school has some dual enrollment. I would say I am getting there with Rowan. I know that Rowan has been very supportive, and a lot of our student teachers come from Rowan.
Right.
We're sending some students there this summer with a science program that they have.
Okay.
And I would say Rutgers University as well, our director of special education. I can't remember the name of the program, but there's a program that she does in partnership with Rutgers.
Right.
So that's probably it that I know of.
Do you know how many students take advantage of the dual credit?
I do not know
No,
how
but
many.
dual credit, that's where they will take a course and they can get high school and college credit for it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
Yep. So dual credit, you can also potentially get credit for your IB classes that you take or AP classes,
Right,
depending
IB
on the.
being, International Baccalaureate classes, right?
Yep.
Advanced placement with the AP, right?
Yep.
And you have a lot of students involved in those courses.
I don't know the number. I do know that there are a number of students that are involved
Right.
in both AP and IB.
Right. So how do you hold yourself accountable for your performance as superintendent?
That's a good question. I just work my plan, and I create an action plan on an annual basis that outlines my milestones and deliverables, and I communicate that to the board. I post it on the website. So that's pretty much what I do in
Right.
terms of holding myself accountable. My role is to create the conditions for our staff and our students to be successful. So it's an iterative process where you work the plan, you see how you measure the progress, and then you create another plan. So to kind of go back to the systems engineering, that's basically what a systems engineer does.
Okay.
Like you design the system based on like where you are, and you work the system, and then you look at the output, and then based on the output, you design the system again.
Okay.
And I think, going back to your, like, where do the parents come in, the students, and like the teacher, those voices are important to listen to help describe like why do you think this is, and listening to, I call them empathy interviews, like listening to that data plus your output that helps you to design your system for the next iteration.
Where do you foresee the district within the next 5 years?
The next 5 years, we're off of that bottom 5% list.
Right.
The next 5 years, I see probably a new generation of leaders, just being honest, which I think is, a sad thing, but a good thing. I see the next 5 years, just based on what I see happening in town and listening and interacting with the city's mayor and the council on what they're doing, I see that our student population has increased. I see that we have a lot more students that are taking advantage of the courses that are at the high school. I see, just again, hope is not a strategy, but based on my hope for expanding our IB program, I see that there are different pathways for students at the high school
Right.
to take in the next 5 years.
And how about you personally? What legacy would you like to leave in the field of education?
Oh, gosh, the field of education.
What are we reading about Dr. Carol Kelley in 20, 30, 40 years?
So one of the things that I really hope to leave as a legacy is leaders. One of the superintendent, and he's no longer a superintendent, that I greatly admire, and I can't remember Terry's last name, but almost every state there's a superintendent that worked under Terry. And folk don't necessarily have to be a superintendent, but I definitely am hoping that there are individuals who are leading a school or leading a department. They're leading something That's the legacy that I hope to.
Great leaders.
Yep.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
And just a couple last get-to-know-you type of questions.
Okay.
Like a favorite book.
Favorite book?
Favorite book.
Okay. Should I give the real answer?
Yes, the real for real answer. Yeah. Romance.
I love romance. I
it
would
could be
say,
guilty pleasure
gosh, B.B. Campbell, Brothers and Sisters.
Okay. Movie. Favorite movie.
Oh gosh. It's.
Or top 5.
I would say, okay, if I can get a top 5.
You go top 5.
I will say Love and Basketball.
Okay.
Love Jones.
Uh-huh. Lots of love.
Best Man.
Okay.
Let's see. Black Panther.
Yeah.
And let's see what else. Top 5. Oh, it's Sylvie's Love on Amazon Prime.
Okay. And what are we binge watching TV shows?
You know, I've not, because I just moved,
Right.
and I donated my family room, so I don't have a place yet to sit. I've not really been binge watching, but I do have a list.
Okay. What's on the list?
So on my list, The Bear.
Yeah.
The
You haven't seen any of that yet?
I've seen the first. I haven't seen the
3.
new. Yeah, I
You
have
haven't
not.
seen season 4 yet. I haven't either. So,
Yeah,
but I hear it's pretty good.
The Bear's on my list. The Gilded Age. It's on my list. And Netflix Forever, I think it's called Forever.
Okay.
It's like a Judy Blume remake by
I don't know that
Myra
one. Yeah.
Myra Brock Kill. I can't remember her last name.
And finally, what does a perfect day off look like for you?
A perfect day
Perfect
off.
day off.
I probably shouldn't say this, but a perfect day off would be one where I don't have to answer email. I don't necessarily need to do anything, but a perfect day off is where I could just not necessarily have to do work.
Right.
That would be a perfect
Just
day
do
off.
nothing. Nobody's expecting you to do anything.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Period. That would be
That's
wonderful.
utopia. I haven't had one of those yet, but yeah.
We'll work up to it.
Yeah.
Dr. Kelley, thank you so much for
Well,
being
thank
with us
you.
today. We have been talking with Dr. Carol Kelley. She is the Superintendent of Schools of Salem City. I'm Dean Johnson for Follow South Jersey. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening.